あ、大丈夫ですか。Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's seminar. As we begin the seminar, let us express our gratitude, appreciation to the Buddha. Namman Lauts, Namman Lauts, Namman Lauts, Namman Lauts, Namman Lauts, Namman Lauts. Again, good morning. Thank you very much for attending today's seminar. Today, we are very fortunate to welcome Reverend Kiyonobu Kuwahara from the Berkeley Buddhist Temple. And he will focus on where did my loved one go after this. And after his presentation, we have a Q&A session at the end. So, 先生、よろしくお願いします。
Good morning, everyone. おはようございます。How are you today? 大丈夫? Good? はい、ありがとうございます。So, yeah, I'm also so fortunate to be here to share the Dharma with you this morning. So I'd like to express my deep appreciation, gratitude to Takada Sensei and then Amy Sensei, and then all of you here today to give me a chance to share the Dharma. ありがとうございます。ね。So I have a kind of bad habit, which is, I have a limited time. But I usually bring more than, the material more than I can share in my time. So I don't know how much I can go. And yeah, we have to have time for Q&A. I try to, complete my talk, my present slide. And then hopefully, so it's 10 now, 11:15. I'd like to finish my presentation about 75 minutes from now, and then you have a time to open your mouth. Saying so, if you have any questions or comment during my presentation, yeah, feel free to raise your hand, and then, yeah, please share your question, ask your question, and then share your thoughts. And then I put my email address on the screen. You can take a picture. Well, of course, if you have any question and comment after the session, you can talk to Takata Sensei or Amy Sensei to contact me. Okay? Anyway, so this is the today's topic. Where did my loved one go after death? This is a very deep, serious, but important question. And then my first answer is crematory. So especially California, once we die, to cremate our body. So our body is sent to crematory. Oh, by the way, in my slide today, this is a kind of heads up, not warning beforehand, but I'm going to show my grandmother's cremation pictures. So maybe if you feel don't feel comfortable, maybe you can cover your eyes. Yeah, I just kind of heads up. So again, this is my bachan, my grandmother, who passed away 2008. And she lived a long life. And so this is my grandmother's funeral service in Japan. But living in the U.S. and then of course my mom. I'm from Japan and from Hiroshima Prefecture, Japan. And then it was tough. When I got a information or a call from my family, but I couldn't go back back to Japan immediately. So I couldn't see her last moment. So that is a kind of challenging or difficult part for us to live in foreign country. Especially I'm a obachanko. I'm a kind of grandma boy. So I spend a lot of time with her. She taught me many things. Because my parents are working daytime. So especially elementary school, preschool, after school, my grandmother took care of me after school until my parents come back home. So anyway, so this is my grandmother's funeral service, and then this altar is my home temple in Hiroshima. So and then you see. This is my jichan, my grandfather, who started my temple. So, I'm from Hiroshima, and then Hiroshima is a kind of Jodo Shinshu kingdom. Lot of Jodo Shinshu temples. So even like half part of Hiroshima Prefecture, there are over 500 Jodo Shinshu temples. And then so probably including the west part of the Hiroshima, close to 1,000 Jodo Shinshu temples just within one prefecture. So that's why a lot of Jodo Shinshu temples. And then, but my grandfather, he was not the Jodo Shinshu temple family. So somehow he encountered Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, Buddha Dharma, and inspired and decided to become a Jodo Shinshu priest. But he was not from a Jodo Shinshu temple. So he decided to become a Kaikyoshi minister, overseas minister. And then he was sent to a temple in Manchuria. I think that was 1941 or 1940. And then he served the temple in Manchuria. And then actually and then Halpin, the city name is Halpin, Manchuria. And then after the war, he came back, with other Japanese, people back to Japan from Manchuria. And then, so after coming back to Japan, again, no temple to serve. So that's why he decided to start a new temple in Kure. Again, already there are so many temples. It's really difficult to start a new, temple in that, crowded area. And then my father is a second, Jushoku, resident minister. And then I was supposed to be the third, but I'm here. So my younger brother, he took over my temple in Hiroshima. So anyway, so this is my grandmother's funeral service. And then I'm from the city called Kure. And this is a nice crematorium. So this is so nice. In Japan, it's very important service ritual. So here, usually people don't stay or see the actual cremation, right? And then usually just body sent to, like an oven. And then most people don't see, what happened. But in Japan, this last moment is very, very, very important. So this is a kind of final moment to say goodbye, to see off like a physical existence of our loved ones. So actually, so there are the ovens, like a crematory oven. So there are maybe 7, 8, ovens. And then usually we put the casket in front of the oven. And then we have a last service, like a jusege, usually jusege, and then we do have a last, service. And then say goodbye and then push the casket into the oven. And then usually one of the family member push the button to kind of start. And then so that's why, and then we wait until the completion of cremation. So we have a nice waiting room too. Usually it takes maybe 3 hours ぐらいかな、3-4 hours ね、in the waiting room. あ、ごめんなさい。そうですね。Thank you, Jim. ありがとう。And then, this is what happened. ね、and so ごめんなさいね。Sorry, I'm moving around. So ね、this is me. ね、so 何年前だ So this is for 14 years ago. ね、so looks 14 year younger. ね。And then this is my father, and then this is my younger brother, ね、and then this is my ばあちゃん。ね、and then so we use a long bamboo stick to pick the bones remains. And then, so this is an urn. Yeah. And then, so this is a bottom side, and then this is, head, skull here. So from the foot to, gradually we put, bones in this, urn. And then finally we put the, head part at the top of the urn. And then we put the lid. Yeah. And then we take that home. So, this is a very, religious, emotional, and then important moment for me. Yeah. Again, I spent a lot of time with my ba-chan, my grandmother, and then she now became a white ashes. So, as when we have a funeral service, we lead a white ashes, and then. So, most Japanese people, we kind of witness, we see the kind of reality or final moment of our life journey. So this is a English translation of White Ashes. There is no knowing whether I will die first or others, whether this will occur today or tomorrow. And then second underline, red underline part, the fragile nature of human existence is such, death comes to young and old alike without discrimination. And that is also true too. So serving a temple as a Buddhist minister, sometimes we conduct a funeral service for young people. And then, so this is one of the tenets or teachings, essential teachings of Buddhism, impermanence, the teaching of impermanence. Yeah. So when we attend a service, funeral service, the reason why we recite white ashes in our tradition is, so Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, funeral service, memorial service is not mainly basically for the deceased. This teaching, gathering, is for us survivors to see the reality or the truth of impermanence so that we can think about how I should live this limited life, my life in this, impermanent world. So this is a kind of Dharma lesson. The funeral service, memorial service is precious occasion for us to receive a Dharma lesson from the deceased. So the teaching of impermanence in Buddhism. So this is a quote from Dhammapada. And then the thing is, maybe most of us know, okay, so this world, life is impermanent. We are living in impermanent world. Maybe we can understand here. But how much seriously take this truth in our heart, religiously or existentially? So I'm showing the numbers on the screen. Yeah. So every minute is 100. Yeah. Every hour, over 6,000. And every day, over 160,000. Most of you can imagine or understanding what those numbers are, along with this flow of my talk. So this is the kind of answers to the question, how many people die a day on this earth. I know this earth is really big, and then on this earth, every day, over 150,000 people, die, their lives end. And then every minute, over 100 people somewhere on this earth, they die. So more 16, it's 10:16 now. So since we started this seminar, I started talking, over 1,000 people died somewhere on this earth. So this is the reality of this world of impermanence. And then the importance, the guidance that I received from the Buddha or Buddhism is always we have to connect this teaching, reality, to my life. Okay, so every minute, over 100 people die. Every day, over 150,000 people die. Or maybe we could ask this way, what if I am one of them today? Of course, I look, young. I don't know young, but I look young and healthy. But of course, there is a chance I die today. Maybe heart attack, or maybe, traffic accident, right? Nobody knows. And then what if our loved one is one of them today? And then how do we deal with, and then fear, anxiety, grief coming from the separation? So for many people, death and then separation is a huge, problem, issue, psychologically and emotionally. And how to accept, deal with this issue, grief, anxiety, fear of death within ourselves. Right? So again, Buddha always asks me, hey, Kyo, are you ready? Are you ready for the reality of this life? So in other words, Buddhism is not the kind of teaching of knowledge. It's not just, knowledge. Receiving the reality or, this information from the Buddha. And then we kind of internally, religiously, existentially, deeply think about how to deal with, accept this, truth, reality in our everyday life. So in that sense, Buddha's guidance, Buddha Dharma, to me is like an emergency kit. Emergency kit. How many of you do you have this kind of emergency kit at home? Maybe some, hopefully. Earthquake. But sometimes we have a big natural disaster, and then sometimes we need to evacuate. And then, as long as we live in this, world, Saha world, always something unexpected happens. And then we humans need to deal with them, right? So this emergency kit, in this, backpack, in the kit, we put a food, water, or flashlight, radio, something, helpful to maintain our life in the situation of emergency, right? Even if we have this kind of emergency kit, we cannot avoid emergency situation. We cannot avoid emergency situation. But at least with this emergency kit, we can deal with, difficult situation in a better way, right? To me, Buddha Dharma is something like that. Even if we follow, we appreciate Buddha Dharma, we cannot avoid, tragedy or disasters, right? But I do believe, I'm sure this teaching, especially spiritually, internally, allows us to deal with difficult situations in our everyday life. So that's why Buddha Dharma is very, very important. We kind of constantly listen and then be ready for the kind of, something unexpected in our life. And then, so this is a passage from the book, The Power to Live and Die, who is a Jodo Shinshu priest. And then he said, always and everywhere the winds of impermanence are blowing. This is a self-evident fact of our world. Things are constantly changing, which itself has nothing to do with our joy or sorrow. However, resisting changes, this constantly changing brought by the truth of impermanence, wrongly thinking that things won't change, becoming attached to passing forms, I sorrow and lament, or I rejoice in them. So this is a reality of our everyday life in this impermanent world. And then receiving this message, how should we think about or kind of, try to make a change to our everyday life? So again, going back to these pictures, and then this is another reality. This is me many years ago, and then has a hair, right? But I don't have my short hair now. So again, I said this experience. When my grandfather died, and we had this cremation service too. But pushing her casket in the oven, and then we waited for a couple hours, and then we are guided to this small room, and then this big tray. That tray was still hot. Really, standing next to this, tray of the remains, I could feel the kind of heat from, this tray. And then, all immediate families stand next to this, tray with her remains, using a big, a chopstick, and then putting the bones in the urn. So this is a very important lesson. Dharma lesson from my grandmother, Eitaikyo, from kind of voice from my grandmother, Eitaikyo, you'll be like this someday. So again, sometimes we totally forget the reality we are living in this life world of impermanence, and then every day that many people, their lives end. I could be one of them. But my ignorance covers, my eyes, my mind, from that reality. So sometimes it's important to encounter the Buddha Dharma or hear the voice of, Dharma. And then think about deeply or seriously, mindfully, think about how should I live my limited life. So in that sense, she ended her life. And then she was in front of me in the form, like bones. So who was she? Of course, she was my grandmother, but at the same time, she delivered very important life lesson to me, Dharma lesson to me. So in that sense, she was Buddha or Bodhisattva. So according to Buddhist cosmology idea, we live in so-called samsara. And then there are 6 realms: hell, hungry ghosts, animals, fighting spirits, humans, and heaven or devils. And then those 6 realms according to Buddhist understanding or Indian understanding, this is a world of untruth or impurity. So that's why we have so many challenges, difficulties, troubles. And then to this world of untruth, to this world of impurity, to this world full of challenges. So that's why truth or suchness, sending a light, sending a message, guidance to us. So this ultimate truth or suchness in a metaphysical expression could be called the realm of nirvana or realm of truth or nirvana. So they are kind of more vague or metaphysical expression naming, or more concrete expression could be or symbolic way is Buddha's land. So they are kind of two sides of coin or pearl. Basically ultimate truth with form or without form, but in either form sending a guidance message to us. So since I'm a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist priest, and then if I talk this thing within the framework, context of Pure Land Buddhism, so Amida Buddha's land, this land of purity, free from suffering, providing a guidance to me, to each of you living this samsara. And then, so that's why we need to live this life of suffering, life of challenge, samsara, and then attaining birth in Buddha's land. So which is called like a going or attaining birth in Buddha's land. And then, but sometimes this going and coming back, I know confuse us, especially this country, country of Christianity. So Sensei, what is the difference between Buddhist, Pure Land, Amida Buddha's land, and a Christian, like a heaven? So after we die, we go to somewhere. It sounds like a Christianity. And then what does it mean? Those people who died, coming back, returning. What does it mean? So I know there are many questions about the teaching of Pure Land Buddhism. So again, according to the Buddhist cosmology, we are born into one realm, and then once our life ends that realm, and then we have another birth in different realm. So one after another, we kind of continue life in this samsara. That is a Buddhist or Indian cosmology. So it's like a inchworm crawling on the edge of like a bamboo tree. It's a kind of circle, and then like an inchworm, endlessly, making a circle on the edge of a bamboo tree. So we are something like that. So somebody needs to, pick this inchworm out of this endless circulation of the edge. So for me or for all of you to get out of this endless circulation in this samsara, that is called revelation from samsara, or maybe in Japanese gedatsu. Gedatsu. So two Chinese character, ge, first Chinese character ge means release, and then second Chinese character datsu means escape. So the important thing is we need to stop and then leave this samsara, life in samsara. So this, leaving or getting out from samsara is going or birth in the Pure Land. Because again, the samsara is more complete, life, a complete life. And then once we leave or get out of this, sixth realm, life in sixth realm, I think it's reasonable to think about something concrete as a landing point, right? Once we leave this samsara, and then what happened? Especially Pure Land Buddhism, the idea is something kind of to be consistent, think about Buddha's land, right? So since we, going to or leaving sixth realm, and then for Buddha's land. So that's why people, use the expression birth, be born in Buddha's land. So again, so Pure Land Buddhism is a kind of framework. Idea is more spatial, symbolic, framework rather than more metaphysic. So like if we go even like a Buddhism, if we go to like esoteric Buddhism, or maybe Zen Buddhism, try to be more like a formless or metaphysical expression. But the character or maybe idea is Pure Land Buddhism, we use more symbolic or concrete expressions. Yeah. So again, this going to Buddha's land or attaining birth in the Buddha's land, Pure Land, some people have hard time to understand this. So let me use different approach or analogy. So now you see pictures of different schools. I went to Hiroshima University, undergrad, and then IBS, Institute of Buddhist Studies. It's a Buddhist graduate school located in Berkeley. And then Ryukoku University, which is a Jodo Shinshu University located in Kyoto. And you see Berkeley, Stanford, Columbia, and Harvard. So I would say I went to those schools. But it's not too many, right? And then maybe I don't look that smart to go to Harvard or maybe Stanford and Columbia, right? So this expression, I went to those schools, what does it mean? Does that mean I just visited those schools, or I actually enrolled and then studied there? So I went to Hiroshima University. I went to IBS. I went to Ryukoku University. So, but I didn't go. I visited UC Berkeley because I'm living in Berkeley. And then when I went to East Coast, then I went to Harvard, and I visited Harvard and then Columbia. Sometimes I take guests from Japan to Stanford University to show the campus. So I went to those schools. But actually, I went to Hiroshima University, IBS, and then Ryukoku University. I enrolled those schools and then studied over there. So this expression, I go to the Pure Land. I want you to think about what does it mean. I go to the Pure Land. So, and then when we say I went to Hiroshima University, I went there, enrolled as a student, and then I received education. I took the courses. And then because of that, I could expand my knowledge, receiving the advanced education. And then IBS, graduate school, Ryukoku University too. There I studied Buddhism. And then once I received the education, or all of you went to university or grad school, what would you do? Then you kind of benefit the community, other people with the knowledge or education you received after graduation, right? So maybe this is one way to think about I go to Pure Land. Are you talking about the physically going somewhere, or what the practical meaning of go to Pure Land? Maybe I want you to kind of switch the idea or approaches to understand this go to the Pure Land. So again, so this is a Pure Land framework, more spatial symbolic framework. So getting out of this samsara, and then we go to Pure Land, or maybe sometimes we say we attain birth in the Pure Land, which means going or leaving means revelation. We live the life in this samsara. That is a different expression of going and attaining birth. And then again, going to Pure Land means what happened over there? We become a Buddha. To become a Buddha means we gain wisdom. And then this wisdom for what? For me to be liberated, life of suffering. And then at the same time, this wisdom is the source of guidance to those who still suffering when we come back to this, samsara, to provide the guidance. So this is the idea of going and coming back and attaining wisdom, and then because of compassion. This compassion doesn't mean to be kind, nice to other people. Compassion in Buddhism is to provide, to share the wisdom so that other people, especially those in suffering, be liberated from this samsara. That is a compassion in Buddhism, right? To be helpful, to be kind. Not only Buddhism, any other religion talks about that kind of kindness, right? And then when we speak of, speaking of compassion, sometimes we associate this idea of compassion to be nice, kind, other people. Yes, in the big picture, framework of so-called compassion in Buddhism, that is a part of, Buddhist compassion. But more, strictly speaking, the essence of compassion in Buddhism is to share the wisdom, to provide the guidance of wisdom with other people so that other people can be liberated from life of suffering. Right? So that is the essence of compassion. So let me ask these very basic, essential questions. So what is Buddhism? Who is a Buddhist? People here or people listening on Zoom virtually, as a Buddhist, you encounter the Dharma and then inspired, drawn to this teaching. And then you started a life as a Buddhist. And then in your spiritual pursuit, you learned, read books, and then maybe you've formed your idea of what the Buddhism is. So I know there are many different answers to the first question, what is Buddhism? So here, let me answer this question this way. So Buddhism is a teaching or teachings delivered by Shakyamuni Buddha, who were born in India about 2,500, 600 years ago. After his spiritual pursuit, he attained enlightenment or wisdom, and then he kindly, compassionately shared his attainment. For what? For other people in suffering also attain enlightenment, be liberated from the life of suffering, right? So what is Buddhism? Teaching taught by, Shakyamuni Buddha, so that all of us to attain or become a Buddha. So Buddhism is a teaching for us, for each of you to become a Buddha. And then who is a Buddhist? One who appreciates the teachings delivered by Shakyamuni Buddha. By deeply, truly encounter this important, very wonderful teaching, gift, and then appreciate Shakyamuni Buddha's attainment or receiving this occasion chance to encounter the Dharma. And then, has one who has an aspiration to become a Buddha or enlightened one, Shakyamuni Buddha. Because to become a Buddha means, for me, to be liberated from the life of suffering. So liberation from life of suffering, which is a kind of self-benefit. And then guiding, once we attain Buddhahood, then we start a life as a Buddha to provide a guidance. Others still suffering, which is benefiting others. So I would say this is very foundational, the ground of so-called Buddhism. And then this framework context, I want each of you to think about all those, Jodo Shinshu terms. So, speaking of Buddhism, there are many different schools. Theravada Buddhism, and then Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, and then even within Mahayana Buddhism, there are many different schools. And then Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, our school, is part of Mahayana Buddhism. And then come to the temple, listen to the Dharma teaching, Dharma messages. We hear Amida Buddha, Pure Land, Primal Vow, Nembutsu, Shinjin, all those, the terms of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. What are they? I know many of us have difficulties to truly understand those Jodo Shinshu teachings, ideas. But again, the context or framework of Buddhism is for all of us to become a Buddha. So in other words, Amida Buddha, who is Amida Buddha? What is Amida Buddha? Has to be understood, interpreted based on this, framework. Amida Buddha exists for me to become a Buddha. So what is Primal Vow? This is about Buddha's aspiration for me to become a Buddha, enlightened one. So what is Pure Land? It's a realm of truth for me to become a Buddha, or from which we receive the guidance. Or other power, Nembutsu, Shinjin. If we try to understand all those Jodo Shinshu teaching ideas, kind of separating from this framework context or essence of Buddhism, maybe we have a difficulties what they are, right? But I always try to, put those teachings, ideas within this framework, or try to find a connection with all those for me to become a Buddha, for you to become a Buddha. Then I'm sure you can have a more, less difficulties to figure out what they are. So let me go back to this first question. Where did my loved one go after death? Well, of course, practically we go to, crematory. But more Jodo Shinshu spiritual response is he or she went to, Amida Buddha's Pure Land. Not just talking about the physically, but it's more religiously, existentially. We have to think about the practical meaning of attaining birth in Buddha's land. And then someday we will also attain birth in this, realm of truth. And then this is a very practical meaning, like go to college. What does it mean? In the same way, go to the Pure Land. What does it mean? I want each of you to think about those things. And then I would say this is Amida Buddha's project. So this Buddha Amida has a great aspiration. There's a project to make all of us to be to Buddha, to make us Buddha. Buddha is the one totally free from suffering, difficulties, and then also based on the compassion, try to provide a guidance, embrace all people still suffering to the realm of nirvana. And then so this is, I would say, Buddha's primal vow, to make all of us Buddha. And then once we become a Buddha, then we will kind of join the team Amida. And then as a teammate of Amida Buddha, and then we come back this world in samsara, and then provide a guidance, people still in suffering. So this is Amida Buddha's project. And then this is so-called Amida Buddha's primal vow. So this returning is, I would say, also we provide guidance, practice of compassion. So that's why the founder of our school, Shinran Shonin, Venerable Shinran, this is one of his hymns. Those who reach the pure land of tranquility return to this samsaric world of the 5 defilements, where like the Buddha Shakyamuni, they benefit sentient beings without limit. 安楽浄土に至る人、五濁悪世に帰りては、釈迦牟尼仏のごとくにて、利益主情は極もなし。In Japanese. And then, then people always ask this question. Then sensei, how, our ji-chan, ba-chan, grandparents, grandmother, how do they come back? So this is a Shoshinge book, and then second image is part of an image picture of Buddhist Sutra. Yeah. I would say this is how people are returning, coming back to me. Yeah. So the first image is Shoshinge. Shoshinge is a summary of Jodo Shinshu teaching composed by Shinran Shonin. As a kind of daily practice of Jodo Shinshu Buddhists, we chant Shoshinge every day. And as we chant Shoshinge, we hear, although it's me who chants Shoshinge, but more spiritually, existentially, I would say, we hear the voice of Shinran Shonin as we chant the Shoshinge. Or maybe as we read the passage of Shoshinge, that's how we see Shinran Shonin in the form of language. Same way, the second picture is a page kind of image of Buddhist sutra, Buddhist scriptures. So Shakyamuni Buddha, he delivered the Dharma. Disciples, they kind of composed Buddhist sutras. Shakyamuni Buddha, he passed away over 2,500-600 years ago, and then he lived in India. Time, space, he's far, far away. But as we recite Jusege, Sambutsuge, Amitakyo, which are Buddhist sutras delivered, taught by Shakyamuni Buddha, as we chant those sutras, we are listening to Shakyamuni Buddha's voice, or we are holding Shakyamuni Buddha in our hand, who is in the form of language or book. So that's why when we start or end sutra chanting, we hold up sutra service book, which is to show our respect to Buddha or Dharma. So we think people is the only kind of human shape, personified shape. But in Buddhism, we see people or things in different ways. So maybe Shinran Shonin coming back to me, those words, language. Shakyamuni Buddha talking to me in all those languages. And then like a Bachan too, my grandmother. So once we pushed the casket and her body into the crematory oven, and then she came back, just bones. But I could hear her kind of spiritual, voiceless voice from her remains, bones. And then in the same way, Shinran Shonin, he had a teacher, master, Honen Shonin Genku. And then I'm sharing two hymns composed by Shinran, talking about his teacher, his master Honen. So for Shinran Shonin, his teacher, master Honen Genku, was a kind of Buddha coming back from the Pure Land. Although Honen Shonin, he was a real human, but within this physical form, or daily conversation with Honen Shonin, he sensed the calling or working from the land of purity, or maybe Amida Buddha, through Honen Shonin's physical, real existence. So this, returning, providing a guidance. So in our everyday life, we live in a sort of, actuality. We see things, we can touch it, and then so that's how we communicate, live our everyday life. But a little bit, deeper level, if we kind of develop, nurture our eyes of heart, or maybe develop, nurture our, ears of our heart, then we can sense, discover all those voiceless, voice, or unseen guidance all around us. So in our tradition, one way to look at call, this is our, loved ones who passed away before us, coming to us in many different ways. So from this, truth, land of purity, we are always receiving the guidance, voiceless voice, calling. So I would say we are living a life surrounded by all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. And then the thing is, are we aware of all those returners from the land of purity? So that's why we need a deep listening. And then, so I would say this is Jodo Shinshu mindfulness. I know mindfulness is very popular right now. And then many, different Buddhist schools have a different interpretation what it is. But I would say Jodo Shinshu Buddhism mindfulness is kind of to discover, to sense all those guidance, calling, voice directed to me from the land of purity, or Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And then, so each of us, as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist practitioner or Nembutsu practitioner, as we live our life, showing respect, appreciation to all those unseen guidance, calling. And then our kind of attitude, way of in our everyday life, cherishing, respecting all those, guidance from the Amida Buddha and the Pure Land. I'm sure people see how we live our everyday life. And then that kind of way or attitude, way of our life, I'm sure give influence, give something people around us. So this is one important, I would say, way of life as a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, Jishin Kyonin Shin in Japanese. The first, 5 Chinese character phrase, first half is I appreciate the teaching. And then second half is share it with other people. Share it with other people. So we encounter the Dharma, and then we live a life cherishing, appreciating the guidance of Buddha Dharma. And then our way of life gives some sort of influence, people around us. And then that's how practically, actually, Dharma spreads. So Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, 3 treasures. So of course, Buddha, Dharma, they are treasures. And then why Sangha is counted as one of the 3 treasures? I know there are different interpretations, but the one interpretation is those, Sangha people, they are the, gathering group of people who appreciate, cherish Buddha Dharma. And then their way of life is a kind of actual, practical body to spread the Dharma. So that's why this Sangha is very, very important. So to this question, they are, one way to answer this question is they are in the realm of nirvana or Buddha's land to be liberated from the life of suffering samsara. But at the same time, always here and now. Here and now. For them to, guide us, to nurture us spiritually. So there are many, different ways, understanding or ways to answer this question. Then, I knew I had a bad habit, so I kind of, this is a kind of part 1. And then if I have a time, there is kind of part 2, second portion. So we still have a time, still 10:55. So let me move on to the part 2. So now I talked about this going and especially returning from the Pure Land part. So this teaching, this tradition of Buddhism, Pure Land Buddhism. So this going and then coming back, returning. This is very important key for this teaching. Okay. Our founder Shinran, Venerable Shinran. So he said at the beginning of Kyogyo Shinsho, his main work, reverently contemplating the true essence of Pure and Way or Pure and Buddhism. I see that Amida's directing of virtue to sentient beings has two aspects. The aspect for our going forth to the Pure Land, and the aspect for our return to this world. So as I showed, like a picture, going and returning. And then this going, returning, he said, Amida's directing of virtue to sentient beings. And in this Amida's directing virtue, he said, true essence of the Pure and Way, or true essence of Pure and Buddhism. And then I showed this, framework. And then, again, so Buddhism is the teaching for each of us become a Buddha. And then, of course, the question is how? How for each of us to become a Buddha? And then to provide a way method, there are many different Buddhist paths, so-called 84,000 Dharma gates. There are 84,000 different gates, entrances, but all leading to the one destination to become a Buddha. But in other words, there are many a lot of variety, different paths for us to become a Buddha. Of course, Jodo Shinshu is one of them. And then here, Shinran Shonin points out, Venerable Shinran points out, so Amida's directing virtue to sentient beings, this is for us to become a Buddha. For us to become a Buddha. And then what does it mean? So now I'm showing Namo Amida Butsu. So at the Jodo Shinshu tradition, or many pure and Buddhist tradition, we recite Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu. In Japanese, we call Nembutsu, or Nembutsu recitation practice. And then this is what we say or what we recite, Namo Amida Butsu, 6 Chinese character phrase. So let me explain what this Namo Amida Butsu 6 character phrase is. I know some of you are familiar with this. So this is a Kirkland, Cascoblande multivitamin gummies, and I'm using this. And then, not only Casco ones, but if we look at the back side of the supplement, nutrition fact, we see all those big numbers, right? Like 80%, 100%, 120%, 200%, right? So this kind of a supplement has a lot of kind of high volume percentage of nutrition. So this small gummy, but it carries necessary nutrition. They are encapsulated into this small gummy for convenience, because ideally it's nice for us to consume all those, vitamin or calcium, everything from like a food. But it's practically speaking, it's really difficult to take all those, necessary nutrition in balance from food. So that's why, all, important necessary nutrition encapsulated into this small gummy, right? So this is very convenient for us. And then to produce this gummy, there are people who are working so hard, right? Researchers or nutritionists or a nutritionist or maybe engineers. Of course, Costco wants to make money, but there are people who are thinking of our health, right? And then their kind of sense of care, which is formless, their kimochi, their heart, which is formless. And then kind of took a form, this form of gummy. So let me use this analogy to this Namo Amida Butsu, the phrase word Namo Amida Butsu. So this short phrase contains all necessary virtues, merits for us to attain Buddhahood. And then this short phrase, because of this shortness, is for us very convenient, easy to recite, easy to practice, right? And then who invented this? Who produced this? Amida Buddha. This Buddha invented this, practice of reciting this short phrase, which has huge, kind of immeasurable merits and virtues. So this Amida Buddha's aspiration that, to liberate us from this samsara, this Buddha's formless, compassion, wish, aspiration took a form into this 6 Chinese character phrase, Namo Amida Butsu. So for us, just recite Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Then we can become a Buddha. We attain birth in the Pure. And then, what does it mean? Again, so to become a Buddha is to be liberated from this samsara. And then, once we become a Buddha, we start a new life to provide a guidance, those still in suffering, right? And then, our achievement is possible. Just simply recite Namo Amida Butsu. So this is 6 character Namo Amida Butsu. So Shinran Shonin, Venerable Shinran, receiving or studying all those studies by, Pure Land monks, scholars. And then he said, this practice, embodying all good acts and then possessing all roots of virtue, is perfect and most rapid in bringing them to fullest. It is the treasure ocean of virtues that is suchness or true reality. So this is how explain, how kind of praise this short phrase, Namo Amida Butsu, or recitation practice of this Nembutsu. So just reciting Namo Amida Butsu, rather than, for us engaging ourselves to various or lengthy Buddhist practices, we can make it. Right? So this is a Nembutsu practice. Then there are some people, monks, who complain, no, that sounds too good to be true. Because all those monks, they engage themselves to various Buddhist practice for many decades, right? But this, group of Nembutsu, recitation, they talking about with this simple practice, we can make it. So there is a big, debate among the Buddhists about this Nembutsu practice. So let me explain this Nembutsu practice this way. So speaking of Buddhist practices, I'm sure there are kind of many different kinds. Some are short, simple, and some are complicated, long, and then some are just, recite single Namo Amida Butsu, and then some Buddhist practice, confining ourselves in a Buddhist monastery, performing, engaging ourselves to various Buddhist practice. So speaking of Buddhist practice, there are many different kinds, okay? Kind of long spectrum of Buddhist practices. Then, what are the simple short practice, and what are the complicated long practices, right? So simple short practices, they have less conditions to fulfill, right? And then complicated long practices, they have more conditions for us to fulfill, to successfully fulfill, right? And then what happened? So simple short practices, they have less conditions to fulfill. So that's why, as a result, more people can successfully perform it, right? On the other hand, how about the complicated practices? Because they more conditions to fulfill successfully. So as a result, less people can make it, right? And then, how about the Nembutsu practice? This is very short, simple. Of course, this side, right? And then when we think about Buddha's aspiration, compassion, what's the purpose, point of Buddhist practice? Buddha requires us to fulfill, complete, difficult practice. Is that the point of Buddhist practice? Or maybe another approach is Buddhist practice, if it's easy and simple, more people can accomplish it, then that would be the Buddha's heart, Buddha's aspiration, right? So Amida has an aspiration to embrace, to liberate all beings from this life in samsara. If so, practice should be more universal, more kind of open to all beings. Right? So this Buddha's deep aspiration to embrace all beings kind of manifested or took a form into this simple, practice. But this simplicity of Nembutsu recitation is totally based upon Buddha's deep, deep compassion or aspiration. So, in other words, as we listen to the Dharma, teaching of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, or listen to Buddha's kind of Amida Buddha's heart, we should realize this kind of profundity of Buddha's heart aspiration in this simple Buddhist practice, saying Namo Amida Butsu. So again, so to achieve something great, we need to make more difficult. I know this is a reality in this our secular world, right? To achieve something great that requires more effort. But this Buddha's path, especially Amida Buddha's path, is totally opposite, right? To achieve something great, Buddha provide very simple thing, right? So that more people can accomplish it, make it. So that's why this is how Venerable Shinran describes this Nembutsu practice, Jodo Shinshu teaching of Amida Buddha. The highest virtue, which is unhindered, unbounded, supreme, profound, inexpressible, and indescribable, and inconceivable. In Japanese, 不思議. It's kind of beyond kind of our human comprehension. And then with this simple short practice, everybody is accepted. Everybody can make it. So that's why he said consummation of Mahayana Buddhism, right? So Mahayana Buddhism is a big vehicle. Not only small number of people can make it, but the Mahayana idea is with a big vehicle. And then let's go together. Let's go alive at the shore of enlightenment. All go together. So if so, this simple practice kind of address this spirit of Mahayana. And then because of this easiest, simplest practice, Shinran Shonin, he describes this teaching consummation of Mahayana Buddhism. So again, let me bring this frame image again. So Namo Amida Butsu, this teaching. So this Namo Amida Butsu, what's that? This is a kind of manifestation, embodiment, Buddha's formless form into this short word, so that for our convenience, easy to recite. That is Nembutsu recitation. And then practice take us to the kind of attainment of nirvana. And then Amida prepared everything, like to invent, to produce small origami, right? Researchers, nutritionists, engineers, they work behind the scene. In the same way, this Buddha Amida has worked so hard for us to attain, nirvana. And then Shinjin is to receive, to deeply listen to Buddha's all work, effort, Buddha's heart, and then accept it, take it. That is Shinjin. And then, of course, primal vow is a kind of Buddha's wish, kind of, grounded on all those, Buddha's work. And then that is Amida Buddha. So if we kind of, follow this way, connecting, all those teaching with my becoming a Buddha, attaining enlightenment, then I hope that you have a kind of a little bit easier understanding. So because of that, here Shinran Shonin said, reverently contemplating the true essence of the Pure Land way, Pure Land teaching, I see that Amida's directing virtue to sentient beings, which is in the form of Namo Amida Butsu. Or he prepared, Amida Buddha prepared practice of Namanda Butsu, just reciting these short words. And then that has two aspects. Our going, leaving this samsara is accomplished with this, short practice of reciting short phrase. And then once we, be liberated from this samsara and then become Buddha, and then returning, joining like a team Amida, and then coming back, and then, starts providing a guidance, those who still, suffering in this samsara, is also part of, Amida Buddha's wish and accomplished by Amida Buddha's directing virtue. So this phrase of Shinran Shonin talking about Buddha's deep compassion, Buddha's huge big project, totally based on Amida Buddha's directing virtue. Okay, so I think I did a great job today. I have 3 minutes before 11:15. So ありがとうございました。Thank you very much for listening attentively. And so now you to open your mouth and then you can talk. ありがとうございました。はい。
If you have any questions, please ask Sensei. And for Zoom attendees, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
First of all, I want to thank you for bringing this topic. We don't like talking about death in this country, so thank you. I have some sort of practical questions, if you don't mind. So there's I took some photos. It's this samsara, realm of suffering. Can you talk a little bit about what each of these, hell, hungry ghosts, animals, talk a little bit about what those are? I particularly like the hungry ghost, because I feel that often.
Yeah, my boys are always hungry. I have 3 boys, and then they're teenagers. They're always hungry. And then, the hungry ghost, so there are different interpretations about these 6 realms, but sometimes we have 3, in Buddhism we talk about the 3 poisons, greed, anger, and then ignorance, right? And then this hungry ghost beings in this realm kind of always driven by like a greed. So maybe life driven by greedy. Greed is a kind of way of life or beings in hungry ghost. So those 6 realms, there are different again ideas. So maybe in everyday life, wake up in the morning and then going to bed, nighttime. So during our everyday life, we may kind of going around those 6 realms. So maybe sometimes we are driven by our anger, or which is kind of fighting spirits, or sometimes we are driven by a greed, hungry ghost, or sometimes we live as human beings. But sometimes we are kind of totally, big, huge suffering, which is kind of, being life in hell. So this is the kind of reality of our everyday life. And then more symbolically, metaphysically, symbolically, maybe we humans, or maybe all beings, like a birth and death, one after another. That is one cosmology or worldview from the Indian thought.
Animals and heaven? I mean, talk about those two, if you would.
So animals sometimes, associated, connected with a greed or maybe kind of ignorance. But again, so those, hungry ghosts, animals, fighting spirits is like a kind of our, I would say like a ugly kind of aspect, reality of our everyday life, And then, so they kind of called or represented in those way, hungry ghosts, animals, and then fighting spirits. And then heaven, of course, which is different from Christian heaven, but and then there is an end. I think Christian heaven is kind of eternity, so kind of live forever. But the Buddhist one of heaven in one of the six realms is still kind of limited life, and then they do receive some sort of a distress during their lives. But among the five beings in heaven, they have more kind of easier life or more kind of pleasure time in there.
And that's seen as suffering. It says realm of suffering, and it's interesting that heaven is in that realm of suffering.
So there are some descriptions about the suffering in hell. I think the one I heard is, so they also, their lives end in the realm of heaven. And then beings in the heaven, they deeply suffer the kind of their coming death. They have a huge, big, deep anxiety for their coming death. So that is kind of one big suffering of the beings in heaven. Although when, especially like a English-speaking world, heaven is a kind of nice, place. But the heaven in Indian cosmology is, still they have to experience some sort of distress or anxiety or those kind of things. But better than other five. Less,
Yeah, perhaps it's the loss of your heaven, the anxiety for losing it.
Losing it, yeah.
I have one very sort of pragmatic question. I find fascinating this tradition in Japan of the funeral tradition. Could you talk a little bit about the origins of this, especially the picking through the bones? I mean, it's just it's fascinating.
ねえ、どうなんでしょうね。I don't know when or who started this.
And is it a Japanese or Buddhist custom? The Japanese probably being Shinto, origins.
I don't think so. For example, speaking of connection with Buddhism, so even today we still have a Shakyamuni Buddha's remains, bones. We call, shari. And then like BCA, Buddhist Churches of America, our headquarters in San Francisco, we have a Shakyamuni Buddha's, bone, gifted from king of the Thai, Yeah.
It's like relics and
Relics,
Christianity.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I have an issue with that, but go ahead.
ね So, but, Shakyamuni Buddha himself, he said, he didn't want to leave anything because, he knew what will happen once people have something physical. And then, I don't know the English word for this, 神格化ってなんて言うんだろうね。神格化. So make it like a very special item. I mean, people lose the point of Buddhism. I think Shakyamuni Buddha, he was a very practical person, and then he knew the nature of human beings. So once, for example, they have some, an idol or something, people totally kind of obsessed to it, and then kind of maybe lose the point of the Dharma. So to avoid that, he kind of said prohibited making a statue or those things. Although today, Buddhism, we have a lot of Buddhist art, statues, those scrolls kind of things. But he himself, didn't want, his followers to make those kind of things. So, but again, so cremation and then keeping the bone ashes, maybe, yeah, 高田先生とかエミ先生 do you know any information about like a start of ねえ yeah
know that I have friends in Japan who are not Buddhist,
あ
and they do that Japanese tradition, origin. But they, I don't, my friend taught me a long time ago, there's a bone in the neck, called like a
喉ばすそうね
it looks like
喉
Buddha sitting, and that's the last bone.
あ yeah yeah
I don't know the origin, but I have friends in Japan who do not identify as Buddhist, but they've expressed to me that they've done that ritual with their family. So even if it had Buddhist origins or Shinto origins, I don't know, but it's like how we do lots of things in this country that might have Christian basis, but it just became part of our American culture, whatever the origin is. Japanese people just do that. Yeah.
How was it for you to do this tradition? You talked a little bit about it, but I'm curious about, because, it's a very active part of death. And again, we don't do that here. We hide from death. We don't want to see it. We don't want to participate in it in some way. So would you mind describing a little bit your experience?
ありがとう Thank you very much ねto me, religiously, or maybe as a human, this is very, very important. Again, people don't want to talk about death because I know it's very stressful, kind of brings us anxiety, pressure. So, yeah, because death brings us a separation. Say goodbye. We have to leave this life, this world, or our loved ones. So, we associate, we see the strong connection with kind of giving up something or separation from our loved ones this world. So that's why death is something negative. So that's why people don't want to think about it, kind of even talk about it, kind of totally put aside, putting it under carpet. But then the question is, are you ready when that happened? So as I said, every day over 150,000 people die. I could be one of them, or maybe next moment. And then our loved ones, may die today. And then what if that happens? We are totally get devastated, right? And then that is a huge suffering, negative, kind of emotion to us. So in other words, again, so to me, the teaching of impermanence is practical point is to make us ready for something unexpected happens, right? So that's how Buddha tries to reduce the negative impact to our everyday life. Although this teaching does not miraculously remove those kind of tragedy from our life, but spiritually, internally, religiously, this teaching makes us kind of ready for, or maybe not ready, I don't know, maybe not ready, but at least we can be kind of have a heads up or maybe be prepared. And then that's how we can reduce the impact of when that happens. And then back to I have four grandparents, father side and the mother side. And then my mother side grandfather already passed away when I was born. And then I attended three funeral service of my grandparents. Yeah. And then I think I have three boys. Yeah. I want them to attend our funeral service with casket or body. Because again, we don't have a chance to see the reality of death. But we cannot avoid, kind of escape from this reality. And then, so that's why I think it's important to see again, so this is my great lesson for us. And then also, this is a very precious experience to me, picking up bones, and then very dry and light. And then I still remember the kind of sound of like of bones on the tray when we picking up. And then, but in the future I'll become that bone, and then so this is a great lesson. And then along with that line, I don't know if this is appropriate to say this, but we Buddhist priests, as a part of our service, we conduct a funeral service. And then we have more chance, more occasion, to encounter death. Sometimes we have a funeral service with casket body. And then, every time I stand in front of, before, we start the funeral service, I usually have a kind of a moment standing in front of the deceased and then see the body and then thinking about the life of this person. And then that is a, great Dharma lesson. Again, so, hey, Kyo, someday you'll be like this. So I hear the voiceless voice of the deceased talking to me, with this body. So as a Buddhist priest, I think I have more occasions than regular people to, see the body. But that's how I received the, Dharma lesson or reality of this world, and then which is more allowed me to think about my limited life. Right. Hi. Hello, John. はい、ありがとうございます。
Can I read John's comment
Yes,
real
please.
quick, and then you can respond? Okay. John online chatted, are 5 remembrances helpful in this context? That is, 1, I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. 2, I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape ill health. 3, I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. 4, all that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated by them. 5, my actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Those are the 5 remembrances in Buddhism.
This is great. Yeah, thank you, John. Yeah, he's a wonderful teacher, Dharma teacher. Yeah, his comment, his words, always very inspiring. Yeah, I received a lot of things from his words. Thank you, John.
Sorry, John, I have one more follow-up question.
Hi.
Is number 5 okay for Shin Buddhists to appreciate?
Yeah. So my action, can you repeat my action?
Actions are our only belongings, and we cannot escape the consequences of our actions.
Yeah, that's true. So, so どうだろうね。Maybe yes and no かな。Let me. Oh, okay. Hi, John. Please. Yeah, please unmute yourself, and then maybe you can elaborate your question.
Is that okay for us to feel that
ね、so yeah, so the reason why I said yes or no because of the definition. How do we define the word like a belong to? So does it mean we can kind of perfectly control our action, or maybe kind of more like talking about the responsibility of our action? So depending on how we interpret the word belong, then maybe, so that's why I said yes or no, because I'm showing another slide on the screen right now, I believe. これ今出てない。出てるね。Yeah. So, so this is a passage from the Tanisho. If the karmic cause so prompts us, we will commit any kind of act. So again, so if we define or interpret this, my action like a belong to me is kind of, I can't control my action. Maybe I see the conflict with the Shinran or Jodo Shinshu way of understanding of our behavior action. Because our action or behaviors, although we have a will or we can control to some extent, but at the same time, I do believe there are some areas, some part we cannot control. And then also, I control, so who is I? So this 49-year-old guy, my thought or my will, my personality is result of all causes and conditions, experience, educations, friends, family members, kind of their influences, kind of, so in that sense, who is of course, so this is a kind of very philosophical discussion of who is I or what is my in, Buddhism, in the, teaching of non-self. So that's why, of course, we kind of can have I kind of subject provisionally, but so in that sense, based on this idea of my action is highly influenced by all causes and conditions which belong to other than myself. In that sense, maybe not, but my action belongs to talking more like a responsibility. So that's why we have to be responsible for my change, way of life. So that's why we should seriously listen to the Dharma. Maybe I, agree with that, passage. But overall, my first reaction is, yes, I totally agree with number 5 too.
You've given a very nuanced, I think, accurate and insightful reply, and I'm grateful to you, Sensei.
So thank you, John. I really appreciate your input. Well, this is nice. Yeah. Oh, by the way, this is my slide for the afternoon session. Yeah, ごめんなさい。どうです? Any other question?
Can I just add something to
please.
my own my experience of death in this country? So you mentioned as a priest, you have many opportunities to see death. As somebody who was the daughter of a priest, I think I went to more funerals before I was 10 years old than people go to in their lifetime. So I didn't know that death was wrong to talk about until I got older. And then everybody in the culture didn't want to talk about it. So anyway, that's just my own, I don't mean it as a pushback to your comment about this country doesn't like death, but I was so insulated in the Buddhist culture, and at that time, it was in the 80s, it was a lot more common for people to have funerals within 1 week. And so the body was there. But as I got older, more and more people said, oh, we can't have the funeral until the whole family can come. And then the funerals got pushed back. Or they said, oh, we don't want the body there, that's morbid. So I feel like that changed within the last 20 years. And then I went, even though I was still going to funerals, I saw less and less bodies because the funerals were not happening within 1 week. the funerals were being pushed to like 3 weeks and 4 weeks. And even my own grandfather's funeral, I wanted it within a week, and my relatives didn't want it within a week. They said, no, we have to wait till all these people can come. And then the coroners did the best they could to make my grandpa not look gray, but we still had the body. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know what it is that I feel that it changed within the last 20 years or so.
Yeah, so that is the one big difference. When I came to the US, I was surprised. So in Japan, we usually have a funeral service, soshiki, maybe within 2-3 days, people pass away. But here, maybe 1 week at earliest, maybe sometimes, as Amy sensei said, we have a funeral service like 2-3 or weeks after, or maybe even months later. So so that's why that is a big difference. So that's why maybe by then, finishing the cremation, and then at the Berkeley Buddhist Temple, most funeral service maybe 90%. We have funeral service with urn, not the casket. I mean, already body is cremated and into ashes, and then with urn we conduct observe a funeral service.
Sorry, one more thing, Sensei. So my grandfather, my family, we want to see the body go into the crematorium. But when my family's from Fresno, right? Well, I'm just saying because I know your family's from the same area. They make you, I don't think they do this in Japan, but here, if you want to watch the body just go into the oven, or like if you even want to walk up to see the oven, period, they make you sign waivers that you're not going to sue for like your mental health. Yeah. It's really different here, compared to the way you have to sign all these waivers that you won't sue for any distress that you might experience. Yeah, it's really weird.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sensei. We have a next schedule, so I have to close the seminar. I'm sorry. But tomorrow morning, the Sensei will speak again in English and Japanese, 10 o'clock, the Eitaikyo Dharma service, so please attend. So as we conclude today's seminar, let us express our gratitude to the Buddha. Nammandas, 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 nammandas. Thank you very much. We close the seminar, but if you have any questions, you can personally talk to Sensei. Thank you very much.